And here we are. And here we are. Feedback. Okay, one moment. Video should be up now. Don't know why it's not. Been a while. Okay. Come on. One moment. Here we go. Bear with me. Bear with me. Why is this? Stick with me, please. I might trim this off. Okay. All should be good. Bear with me, please. Sorry, I don't know why it's not working. This is annoying. Oh, come on. It should be on. All right. Hey, Tracker Jack. Hello, Fish Dog. Constant little ghost. No rush. You're doing a washing up. Yeah. I don't know why this is. I haven't done this for a while, but they must have changed something. It's annoying. I am live. Yes, everything looks good, but the bit that we all want to see, which is the action, is not showing. Okay, I'm in the settings. I can see my camera is good. Just go to this one a minute. I'll go back to this one. Okay. How annoying. All right. Woohoo. Okay, there we go. Yeah, something's changed. Hello. So, hey, Keith in Watford, Mr. Sloon, Twin Cities Oxygen. Hello. So, yes. So, okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Yeah. If you're not familiar with this, this show is generally a bit chaotic. So, yeah. Pete, that's I Am Modular. Thank you so much. So actually, before I go any further, I would actually like to send a heartfelt, condolences to Sarah, the wife of Mr. Steve O'Hear, who's been a guest on my show, and a wonderful man and journalist and technological. He worked for TechCrunch for years as a journalist and a fine musician and a modular designer. And he came on my show couple of years ago now. I'll put the link in the notes for afterwards, and sadly has passed away, and it's really sad because an incredibly inspiring person, and I'm sure those of you who saw the show will agree. So yeah, I was really shocked to hear that news. So yeah, big love to everyone in his family and friends. Anyway, okay, well, thank you for joining me. This is I'm going to try and make a comeback a little bit more with live streams, but I've been busy with being a musician, really, I suppose. But I do want to do these streams. They are really good fun. I tuned in to Get Jervis yesterday. He's one of my oldest, bestest friends. And he's got his 2 streams on a Sunday and a Tuesday. So that's really nice to see that's starting to pick up for him. But anyway, yes. So, big show at the weekend, of course, in the city that I live, and less than a mile away from my home. Some of the greatest minds in music technology descended for Machina Bristonica, and an incredible show it was. If you're interested to learn more about the show, obviously Sonic State is the place to go. The Sonic Talk today was very much about that, featuring Heimbach, Milo Melodies, and Maths, and Nick Bat, of course, all of whom were there at the event. Brilliant event, and I'm sure some of you in the audience here were there too. And it was a terrific event and lots of new stuff. if I had to pick something as the star of the show, I think I'd have to give it to Finley with the Crick and Future Sound Systems Crick, because it is an astonishingly ambitious and incredible device. And Finn has agreed to come on the show with it at some point in the future, in a couple of weeks' time, I hope, so we can go on a really deep dive. Finley is a really good friend of mine. Love him to bits, so was thrilled to see him presenting such an incredible instrument, and it sounds fantastic. Loads of cool things though. Also the something that's maybe had the most publicity is the your analog what's it, the Clyde 4, the collaboration with Heinbach. I spent quite a bit of time with that, and I thought it was fantastic, really interesting. I was using a contact mic with it, and you can use it for many things. So I thought that was really great. Oh gosh, there was so much, but I mean, it's really hard to see things because I just keep running into people who I either know or people who wanted to have a chat, which is lovely. And it really was a terrific social event. And it did, I think it did get a lot of people into trouble. But anyway, less about that. I'm actually a bit worse for wear. I'm probably going to have a few coughing fits. I'm a bit worried I might have got the dreaded COVID. We'll see. It's back and spreading rapidly again in the UK, a new strain, and I'm feeling pretty grim. Mr. Spoon was there, and in fact, Mr. Spoon was in my team, Jules, otherwise known as mine and Steve Davis's team for the synth pub quiz on the Sunday, and we came third, and that was really good fun. But anyway, let's see, Berkut. I'm from southern Froggyland, so I'm assuming that's south of France. I love it hearing from where people are from, though. So please, why do we do that? I haven't done that for a while. So everyone who's joining, if you'd like to say where you're from, that's a really good, fun thing. Magoo saying, hopefully no pics of Ty and Rin's dusty synths in that quiz. No, thankfully. But, it's... Hi, Wagyu. There we go. Oh, yeah, Mr. Spoon. Don't forget your patch cables. We won patch cables as I work in a quiz. So that's quite cool. Wagyu from Leeds, but in Lucerne in Switzerland. Yeah, lovely. Another Kucha from Staffordshire, Kernow, which is otherwise known as Cornwall. Mr. Spoon saying the quiz was hard. Yes, it was. They had you had to guess the synth from the filter sweep, and then guess what drum machine it was from, just a tom, boop, or a cowbell, donk. But yeah, really good fun though. And kudos to Elevator Sound for organising such a slick and well-organised event. It really, truly was. The music was fabulous. The organising in every sense was really top notch. So yeah, I really want it to happen again, and I think everything's looking good for that. It was the first time it was over 2 days, and I think it needed to be that, because last year it just wasn't long enough, and you really needed that extra day. First day to kind of recce things, and then second day maybe to go and do a bit more of a deep dive on things. Keith in Watford says, no one knows where I'm from. Tracker Jack is actually from Cologne, or Cologne, if I get the pronunciation right. Okay, well, thank you. If I missed anybody with the locations, but yeah, okay, so let's get on with things. Right. So major changes have been happening here in my world, my studio. Mr. Sanders, Ryan. Me and Ryan spend stupid amounts of time together. We spend hours and hours. And in fact, Ryan has also taken the plunge at the same time as me. And what plunge, you may ask? And the plunge is the Oxy One. This is from Oxy Instruments, and it's called the One, but everyone knows it as the Oxy One. And I have to say, this is the single most impressive piece of music technology that I've encountered in a few years, maybe since the Osmos. And I know it's been out for a couple of years, It's got this fairly new livery. The original one was more grey with full colour pads, but this sort of, as they call it, the black edition, I think, is it does look, well, in my opinion, just look a lot nicer. And unless you actually get to feel one of these things in person, it's really impressive build quality. It's a terrific premium feeling piece of kit. A lot of controllers and the like, often plastic. This is made out of like aluminium. It feels almost like a unibody. It feels a bit like it feels a little bit like a MacBook or something, or as it's also been described as a little bit like an OP1 or something as well, which I get that. Rubber buttons, but they feel good, and the encoders are actually fantastic. Now around the back, I'm sure most of you know all of this anyway, but we'll just have to do it anyway. We have got 8 gates and 8 CV outputs. The pipe, I'll talk about that in a moment. A clock out, a clock in, a clock or a CV in. You can choose what that is. MIDI in and out on MIDI jack. And then on the side is a USB-C socket and a power switch. Now, so I mentioned the pipe. The pipe is a Eurorack module that they make. Is this in shot? I don't think it is. No, just out of shot. Here is my modular rig, which indeed the pipe is inserted into. And what's brilliant then is with just a single HDMI cable. Now I think that's super interesting. With a single HDMI cable, you can connect up your modular, and then that can be fully patched. The module can be fully patched, so you just whip it out and connect it with the one cable. You might want to connect a couple of cables, like I'm also sending a MIDI cable to it. Now there's a lot of innovation with this. They also do this thing called the split. Now this doesn't come with it, but it's only around 45 quid extra. And what this does is it takes a single TRS MIDI jack. You have to change the settings. So if you don't have this, then you've just got a single, 16 channel MIDI output. But with the split, it gives you 3 entirely separate MIDI outputs and a through. The through and output A are on our favorite DIN, and then B and C are on mini jacks. Now, this expands the Oxy One in many ways because it allows it to control a sophisticated MIDI setup, as well as being able to control a sophisticated Eurorack setup. And this is what sold it to me, really. And yes, I bought this like all of you out there. There are no freebies here. I bought it from Elevator Sound. Just give them a plug. Deadly being able to drive to Elevator Sound in less than 10 minutes, because once I started to understand the scope of this beast, then I had to have it, and I've made a big commitment to it. But part of the reason for it was because of the way that it can interface. Now, where it can live is on my desktop here, and I've got many MIDI devices here, including the glorious and newly changed key bed, the Super 6. This has got the Super Touch key bed on it, which I'll probably do something about that in the future, but it's amazing. But so I can plonk the Oxy One on my desktop there, connect it with a mini jack, and I connect it with a USB-C, so it charges it up and also connects it up to the computer. And then with that MIDI and with that mini jack MIDI into the split, I can control all my MIDI stuff. Excuse me. Now, so that's brilliant. I can just lift it off there in a minimum amount of fuss, put it into, and here's another winner. I mean, this thing is, I've been in this game for a long time, and this really, truly is staggering, jaw-droppingly good. And I don't say that lightly. Because they've thought about so many things. So when you buy it, you get this travel case, which is super quality, and it's got double thickness of padding. It's got like the shell itself is kind of tough, but then there's an additional layer inside here. And I'm not sure if it always comes with it, but the bundle I got in Elevator Sound came with it, you see. So whoop. So you got like the outer covering, and then you've got this inner packaging. You know, I've been a touring musician all my adult life in various ways, or certainly, you know, a gigging musician. And yeah, that feels really fit for purpose. So yeah, whack it off the desk, stick it in his box, chuck it in my little rucksack, take my Damaroo modular rig with me, and that's it. I'm good to go. I also take the stay stand some of you will see me perform with, which goes into a bag, so I can carry it all in one, set up the stay stand. Oxy sits on the top deck, modular on the bottom deck, connect it with the pipe, connect the one MIDI cable, and we're good to go. It's fantastic. And there's more. That's because the Oxy, let's just switch back here, I'm actually running this without any power, which may bite me in the bum later. We'll see how long we stream for. But this thing also built-in battery and Bluetooth. So when I got it, I was so I stayed up ridiculously late playing around with it, and then when I went to bed, I say my wife wasn't in; she was poorly in another room at the time. So I went to bed and I took that wirelessly and my iPhone. AUM, set up a session and did another 3 hours in bed, just that wirelessly, and my phone, just using the phone speakers, just exploring the features. So yes, it can work as a Bluetooth multi-timbral, well, not multi-timbral, whatever, multi-channel sequencer. So yeah, you know, so it works with my three main ways of doing things. With my iPads for traveling, phenomenal for plane journeys. It works with MIDI, and of course it works with CV and gate. Now with the CV and gate, it's worth knowing that the 8 gates and the 8 CVs, and also there's a resetting clock in the little pipe. What that doesn't do is that doesn't give you an additional one. What it just does is it sort of mirrors what's on the pipe is a mirror of the socket. So if you were to patch into the unit itself, it would be like a passive mult. So it basically is a mirror of the same thing. So you could. They recommend you don't use the in. There's a single CV in. You don't have two things coming into the in, but two things coming out is absolutely fine. That's funny. Right, I'm going to try not to cough my head off here, but okay. So it wants to survive a drop from the table onto tarmac without the case switch. Thank you. That was a very kind thing to do and good to know, but I don't intend to go dropping it. But hello, Tonal Axis. Sorry if I've missed some people. I've been yakking away. I will do questions later. I would say I'm about 80% with this. Now that's after nearly 2 weeks of just deep diving nearly every day, with the exception of Bristonica getting in the way. Okay, but so what we've got here then. We will go into a fair bit of detail, but you can just see here, not particularly well in shot, you don't really need to see it, is my big beast Roland Integra. Now, I think this is really funny because the Roland Integra, I've done a video about it before, but is the last in the line of the Roland modules. And is a really overpowered module in many ways. It's got so much stuff built into it. Of course, it had all of the XV and the JV series with all of the expansions, I think, that were officially released by Roland. But it also, when it launched, it had the same engine that was new at the time, that was the Jupiter 80 sort of, and that came in two flavors of Supernatural. There was a Supernatural like virtual analog, which does sound actually really, really good, and the Supernatural acoustic instruments now, and that's what we're going to be playing around with tonight, because I find this is quite funny. The Oxy One is something that has kind of grown from modern ways of doing things, certainly modular, and some, there's lots of Euclidean sequencing tricks in here, lots of random and stochastic stuff, things that are really that have kind of come from the amazing expansion that we've seen within the kind of Eurorack world, and to then partner that with the Integra, I find quite amusing, because I don't think they could have anticipated, Roland didn't anticipate a device like this really existing, and also I don't imagine that many Oxy One users would pair these together. However, this is quite amazing what you can do given the power of the Oxy One. Now, I know that many of you will know the Oxy One, so I'll just try to go... Tom Lewis! I got that Machina cold too. Yeah, let's hope it's a cold and not COVID, but yeah, I hope you're all right. We were out very late too. Yeah, so... right. I'll try and do the basics quickly, because obviously you probably know most of this, but it's essentially a 4-track sequencer, but that's a little bit deceptive, because those 4 tracks, if you were to turn that track into one of the modes, if you turned it into a multi-mode, then you can turn a single track into an 8-track sequencer, and you can do that across all 4 tracks. So if you wanted it to be, it could be like a 32-track sequencer, which is pretty cool. Or you can choose like a sort of more simplified, like a monophonic or a polyphonic sequencer. I say simplified, you get other bonuses. When you're using it as a monophonic sequencer, you also get 4 automation lanes. When you're using it as a multi, where you've got 8 sequences, each sequence only gets one modulation. But that means you've still got 8 modulation channels on the one track. But anyway, let's just firstly then go into some of the engines, the sequencer engines, and you do that by hitting Shift and 1, and then I can step through it. Now, you're probably not going to be able to see it too well here, but basically we got mono engine, poly engine, chord engine, multi-track engine, stochastic engine, and matricial engine. Now, matricial is a word that I wasn't very familiar with, but what matricial essentially means is... as in matrix, as though from a matrix, a matrix in the plural sense, I suppose. We're not going to go into that mode tonight, partly because I haven't figured it out yet. It's quite interesting, but we'll have to keep that one for again. And I probably will skip over the stochastic mode tonight and focus mainly on 2 modes, okay? I'm going to change track 1. I'm going to change it into a chord mode, okay? Okay, so track 1 is a chord mode, and basically here we can create chord sequences. And then in track 2, I'm going to change track 2 into a multi-track mode. Okay, I might set track 3 up to be a polyphonic mode, and then I'm going to set up track 4 to be a I'm going to do another multi-track mode in track 4. Okay, let's come back to track 1. Now, there is a ton of navigation things with this. Hey, Jack. Hey, Robbie. Inverted Popes. Oh, nice to see you. Good to see you very briefly, Robbie, in Bristol. Oh, Robbie, I didn't come and see the emulators. I'm so sorry, but well done for doing that. Incredible thing to do. But I was just, Machina was just too hectic, really. Brilliant, but right. Okay, so the first thing we'll probably do is I'm going to set, right, well, I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I've got an old iPad here. This is quite a well-known iPad, actually. This is what we did a lot of Sonic Touch with. So it's an iPad Air from 2012, or yeah, I think about 2012, and largely redundant, but it happened to come out at the same time as the Integra, and the Integra has got a wireless mode. So this little iPad is a dedicated touch controller for my Integra, because, you know, I've got plenty of other iPads and stuff around. So, you know, so it feels quite luxurious to have this. Now, I can do quite a lot from this, including, if I wanted to, I could go into the Supernatural engine, the synth engine, and it'll give me like, you know, real-time controls over the synth engine, albeit it's a bit clunky, it's not great. And as a controller, it's not brilliant, but it does actually work really well in this way. I could go into a mixer, and I could do pan, mute, and EQ, and obviously levels for my 16 parts. Now, what we're going to do today, though, is we're going to use what's called studio sets, okay? And studio sets are a pre-configured, you know, multis. And I'm going to I'll go full orchestra set. I might change this to a chamber orchestra in a bit, but go full orchestra set. And then what that gives me is a bunch of pre-configured classical sounds. And there's something really cool about this. I think the Supernatural acoustic sounds, when they came out, that kind of stuff was really out of fashion, and I don't think people paid, well, unless you were in the composition game, but you know, general synth fans were just so aghast at the Jupiter 80 just sort of, you know, being exactly the opposite thing to what people wanted the Jupiter name to be associated with, that I think it was easy to maybe overlook just how good these acoustic sounds are. Now, I mentioned earlier that when you use a multi-mode on the Oxy, you only get one modulation lane. Well, actually, that works quite well with these, because each one of these, like, acoustic instruments, they've got a specially configured modulation, so you can't really do an awful lot to the Supernatural acoustic sounds. They're kind of like presets, really, but the modulation's been set up to give you different kinds of articulations or different kinds of things which are specific to each acoustic instrument. So this is what we're going to be getting into today. That's quite funny. Nick's interrogation video of the Jupiter 5080 is hilarious. Yes. It's just, yeah, I mean, it was just something that, you know, Roland just follow their own path, and sometimes it just feels hilariously out of touch. But they always make really good products, but not necessarily with their finger on the pulse. I've noticed, I think the Integra now may actually be discontinued, or is certainly in its dying days, and hasn't been replaced by another device. I think largely because Roland has moved things like this entirely to the cloud, and mostly that makes a lot of sense. However, a dedicated module just lets you do mad stuff, and that's what I want to do a bit of tonight. So, now, I mentioned you've got like this orchestra that's kind of pre-configured. Not only are they pre-configured in terms of on the MIDI channels, etc., they're also pre-configured in this surround sound thing that Roland had brought out with the Integra, which was called motional surround, which it's got like a 8 output, so you could do a full, I think you could do a 7.1 surround output on it, or you can do this kind of pseudo surround, which is in stereo, and that's what we're going to be doing tonight. And there's a button on the panel, I think there's probably a button on here as well, yeah, which lets you toggle this surround on and off. And we can see here that everything is positioned. Here's the conductor, and then all of the different instruments are sort of pre-configured within a stereo space. Not a stereo space, a pseudo surround space. Although in this case, you know, you can see it's very much as though the conductor has got all the instruments in front of them. And curiously, when you disable that function, it does sound a lot more MIDI when you do that. When you put that on, it does impart a decent amount of realism. Something we'll play with again. Hey, Jim Glue, good to see you in Bristol as well. John Bryant, Andy Liggins. Yes, Andy Liggins. Sorry to hear about Steve O'Here. Yeah. Oh, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, very sad. Thank you. But anyway, so what we're going to do then is we're going to set this up. So the chord track, I'm going to have a piano on the chord track. And then on a multi-track, I'll do whatever these are, which will be what we got. We got a string section. Actually, I might do actually, I'm going to switch it. I thought I might do that. I'm going to switch it to the chamber orchestra. I think it makes a bit more sense in this case here. So we'll load that in. And then if we were to look at our surround, it's a little bit, you can see as it was repopulating all of the things there. But we've got more individual instruments here, which I think makes sense because we're going to be doing in the multi-mode. Oh yeah, in the Oxy One, in the multi-mode, they're all, you can think of them almost like drum voices, but you can do monophonic pitch information into that too. So anyway, I'll just put that down there now, and we'll go back to the Oxy, and we'll configure this now. So if I look on my iPad, I can see that I've got a piano on MIDI channel 12. So the first thing I'm going to do then is this chord track, I'm going to assign it to MIDI channel 12, and you know, pretty simple. I'm just going to go up to 12, and it does say 12A. I could carry on, and that would go to 16A, then to 1B up to, you know, 16C. So yeah, because I've got this, something I showed earlier, this thing which gives me multiple MIDI outputs, of which though I'm only using 16 at the moment, but this is fine for tonight. So now, if I go to my piano, oops, did I do that wrong already? Channel 1, oh yeah, I didn't, I should have just clicked, yeah, just to click it to make it, there we go. Yeah, okay, now, when I go into my sort of keyboard mode here, we get chords as... Now, even though often described as a happy man, I much prefer a minor key. So let's do that. Let's just change the key to minor. And now we've got a bunch of chords. There we go, much more somber. Now, bunch of ways of entering chords. If I was to flick to my keyboard in the chord mode, then I've got along here, I've got different articulations. These two columns here are dedicated to articulations, and then the well, different kinds of chords. It does tell you the chords in the little screen. If I push this one, this will take me to a second bank of chords, and then this one up the top here, this is kind of cool. What this one does is this one turns on like a kind of auto inversion. So like with it selected, which is selected by default, so it's kind of keeps it moves to the chord with the least amount of movement. If I turned that off and went between, then you know the chords are bigger intervals. So generally I think that would probably be best to leave that on. And you know, and you can go looking for chords that you like. And let's say I like that chord, which I happen to like that chord, which is a C minor 7th. Keeping my finger on it, this top row is actually reserved for favorites. So it's a little bit like the chord bot, for those of you who know that. So I'll get a chord there. Now, because that's the last one that I touched, if I flick back now to my screen here, and then I could say from here to here. Oh yeah, so yeah, it puts it in where it should be. You probably can't quite tell this, but there's like a sort of a slightly different colour, a paler colour here, which these are the how long the notes are tied for. So So you can see we can do that. But let's put some other chords in. Quite like that. I like those doing the chords. You know, it's really fun to build chord sequences in here. And you got tons of shortcuts and cool things on here, like these buttons here. If I hold the init, sorry, the init and end, I could say, I could set the end for where the or where it starts from. But also, if I do shift, I can either double or I could speed it up or slow it down. So if I went, that's the fastest I can do it, 32 changes, but you can do this as well with the division mode, and you can dial that in as well, but you've got a little shortcut then to sort of enable. Now we can do all sorts. I mean, oh my goodness. I'm going to stop this a moment. I'm just going to have a little kind of mind melt, which is there's a million ways of doing things on this thing. So it's been out for about 2 years, but it's already on version 4.5. And that's quite staggering, really, because it does everything. I can't really think of anything that you want it to do that it doesn't do. Maybe one thing, but there's a lot of complexity. And I would say straight away that this is not a beginner's device. This, I mean, yeah, you could do some basic stuff, but you don't want this for a beginner. This is a sophisticated device. One moment. And the deeper you go on it, the more unbelievable it gets. You know, like a few years back, when it came to step sequences, Electron were the only game in town really for the sophisticated parameter locking. And this has got all your parameter locking kind of capabilities in. So if I press and hold this step, for instance, on the screen now, I could set an individual velocity, an octave, gate length, and also how much modulation is applied to just that step. But if I hold shift on the step, we get our step submenu where we can do strum, which is a little bit like on the Arturia KB37, trigger probability, which is set to 100%, meaning it'll always play, retrigs, so you can do your ratcheting, and then you can do timing offsets as well. So it's got pretty much all of the Electron trip stuff in there, because if I went through the trigger, it's set to 100%. If I turn it beyond 100%, then I got 1 to 2, 2 to 2, 1 to 3, meaning it'll play on the first of 3 bars, 2 off the second of 3 bars, etc., etc. Turn all the way through all of those options, and then we get into all sorts of like logic stuff, you know, where fill, negative fill amount. It's almost the same as the Electron offering. And the last option is a padlock, which means if you padlock a step, then you can do a whole bunch of random things, and that step won't change. The other things that haven't been locked will change. So very cool, very cool. I'll just set that back to 100 for now. I'm really conscious that there's no way I'm going to be able to do anything like cover everything in this. It's just ridiculously vast. So what I'm going to focus then on is the relationship of the chord track and the harmony aspect of it, which now a few years back, oh gosh, I say a few years back, I'm talking maybe 10 years ago, Cubase launched the chord track. They were the first of the big DAWs to have a chord track. I think Studio One followed suit, and now I think Logic does, etc., etc. And I made a video for Steinberg in conjunction with Sonic State about the chord track. I really love that video. It's from long way back. Maybe I'll put the link into the notes. but I've been a huge fan of the chord track, and I'm delighted to say that finally, you know, we've got a hardware device that's got a very sophisticated chord track that works along quite similar principles to the one in Cubase, which is a really amazing compositional tool, not just for setting chords up, but you can set any other track to essentially pitch quantize or to harmonize to the chord track, and that's what we're going to do. Right, so now let's get onto it. So we've got our chords, and now we're going to go into our second track. Let's get back onto the visuals here, and we're going to set each one of these up to reference the to make them line up with our multi. So we got a violin on one, and so just get to I can do a shift, and where's my preview button? I think that is on the keyboard here. Yep, let's just enable that. Aha, I'm in the wrong mode. Shift and 2. I know, set to multi. No, that is right. I know, they're all set to the same MIDI channel. So what I'd have to do, I perhaps should have done a Blue Peter, and here's one I prepared earlier, but I didn't, so I'm just going to have to quickly do that. Set that to channel 2. Set that to channel 3. Oh no, sorry, yeah, channel 1. And then channel 3, channel 4. So as I change the thing, I'm actually going, yeah, I'm choosing it, and then I'm pressing the button to enable it. 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so it's pretty quick. It's pretty quick to configure. Now, you can imagine if this was going to a drum sequencer, then you could have them all just, you know, like 808 style, but being able to see 8 drum tracks, which is pretty cool. You know, if you compare this to something like the BeatStep Pro, which was a brilliant device in its day, I mean, it's still for sale and is still, you know, very performable. I mean, this thing just goes into just completely different, into another level altogether. So, oh, I need to set that one to channel 1. Okay, yeah, right. So now, what I can do now is, things are about to get interesting. Okay. Again, I'm mentioning, I can't go into the full detail of this because we would be here for about at least 3 days. So I'll move fairly quickly through this, but what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use the random generator. Now, the random generator works on all the different modes in different ways. In the multi-mode, it gives you 2 ways of it working. So I go Shift and the random button to apply. Let's just make sure this is selected. Yeah, so there's like an orange light indicating, you can change this in the settings, but the orange light indicates that this track in the multi-track mode is selected. If I press it once, the next one, there's an orange light here and at the end here. If you've got steps on them, then you don't see the indicator as much, but it gets you up and running. But what happens is if you press it a second time, then you actually put a step in. So one press lets you just track select. If you don't want to do that, you just hold down the track, and then you can just, I'm in track 2, so I could just do this, and then that'll let me jump to select the track. Okay, now just remember which button it is. You push one of these buttons. Is it this one? No. Is it this? Oh, hang on. Back. Yeah, this one here. Now, so these encoders are push buttons as well. So here now we are looking at a, I'm just going to mute our piano track. We're looking at a blank piano roll. So I could just scatter in a bunch of things. Let's push. Okay. And it's a bit nonsensical at the moment, but so you can see I can put these in here. Now, stop this, and then on the top level here, this multi-track is set to be in chromatic, which you can hear that as chromatic. Let's go back into that again, so you can see it's chromatic, yeah. In fact, let's just do something really easy, just so it's really obvious what's going on. Okay. So like a chromatic. When you hear them other things, it's because we're hearing I've got preview turned on, so ignore that for the moment. But here we go. Yeah. Hey, Fat Dust. Nice to see you, mate. A constant little ghost. That's a lovely name. It was really nice to see you at the show. Synchrotron. Hey, Fat Dust, I just saw your little donation. Hey, that's nice. Thank you. Very kind. Twin Cities. Can it record MPE messages? Ooh, I know that... Let me just stop this chaos. They do make a module called the Coral, and I know that an update of the Coral allows you to use that as an MPE device. I'm not sure if this does have MPE just yet, but anyway, there's ways around it. Not sure. I don't know if you would be able to do it, but maybe. Okay, let's go back to this. So we've got, yeah, so we can hear that that's chromatic. Now, if I change the scale, then I could go through all the usual suspects, the scale suspects. You know, we got major, minor, Dorian, Phrygian, all the modes, pentatonic, major, harmonic, minor, melodic, blues, Arabian, Romanian, Hungarian, Oriental, some different ragawans, Chinese and Japan. Oh, loads, tons. Phrygian, diminished, Byzantine, Spanish, Phrygian, Neapolitan minor, Neapolitan major, Ukrainian Dorian. So plenty of scales. But when you go back to chromatic, one click to the left and it says harmonize. And then if I had other chord tracks, you could choose which chord track you wanted to harmonize it with. As I've only got one chord track set up, I know I've actually got two, but we want it to harmonize the sequence of one. So now this chromatic thing is going to change depending on what our chord track is doing. So I need to enable my chord track for us to hear this action, and then if I press play, I just turn the chords down at volume a minute. How nice is that? Now, if I mute the chord track, because the chord track's muted, it's just got da 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 da. But look how lovely that was, though. Just honestly, this thing has just been blowing my mind. Excuse me. So let's add some more tracks. Okay, so I'm going to choose another track here. I'm going to go into the keyboard mode. Half God, half beast. Great to see you at the show. So funny meeting people when they just existed as strange names. Okay, so if I hold the mute down, we can actually mute. So just mute that one. So like I mentioned then, these, I'll stop it for a moment. These Integra sounds, they've got a very intelligently assigned modulation wheel options. So I'm going to be able to then just apply some modulation to the steps, and then we can get some quite interesting. Let's just do that with a step chord. Set to, I'd have to just whoops, let's just do that again. I'm gonna have to configure them to be in modulation, so but I'll do that in a moment. I'll just build up a few more tracks, but we can see how this then, where the power of this starts to get good. Jack is asking Integra 7. Yes, this is all the sounds coming from the Integra 7, and they honestly, they do sound really good. I mean, you know, they might not be as cutting edge as some software orchestral sounds, but I don't know, they still sound pretty good to me. Okay, so I'm going to choose a different track and come up with another part. And I'm still a little bit hazy on how to do this, but oh, I see. Yeah, you have to back out of that, and then this button works. Okay. Let's get something like a bit more. I'm just going to do some fairly chaotic things for a moment, and then we're going to play around with ways that we can change this. So I'm going to choose another track, and now I'm going to use the random generator. So I have to press random generate twice to get to my random generator. The first mode is Euclidean, the next is random generator, and I can say in the density, if I turn the density all the way past, oh no, sorry, is it not density? Oh yeah, you turn it all the way down, and I can say, I can choose whether I want it to be, it could generate completely random parts, or it could generate parts based on other parts, like inverted or using the same pitches but just rearranging the pitches. So there's all different ways of doing things. So we'll do this, and we'll add some. So here we go. Let's add another one now, and we'll do a similar thing on this track up here. Some harps. Okay, so I could go over to my iPad and I could start mixing the levels there, or I could change the velocities. And I can do that on a per track basis. So if I back out of this, drop some of the levels down. Excuse me. Okay. Oh, track 2. Let's get some viola. Let's bring some viola in. Again, I'll do a random, and then a random part. Let's do it. Okay, so you can see that's doing really nice things, or rather, very harmonic things, where I've just been using, like, punching in random things, you know, take out steps, you know, simplify things a little bit. Now, depending which track I've got selected, I can use the divides as well. The harp would be nice with a little delay. Yeah, it would. I'm not going to dive into the Integra. Oh, yeah, I could do actually. I can do. No, I'm going to leave that for now because I'm going to leave it for now because everything is using this motional surround. Now, I'm going to do some more things here where I'm just going to shorten some things up. Now, with my init and X, I can set each of these to be looping individually. So if I go here and say that one is going to end, so that top one is just going to move just in a small way there. This one will go from here to here. This one will go from here to here. Now you can see they're starting to all work at different rates here. And so I can divide it all down. So we got all sorts of quirkiness going on here. But now let's jump back to our chord track, and this is where things get really cool. So by holding a track button down and just either going above or below, you can transpose, but and keeping it in key. That's funny. So you're kind of getting the gist of this now. Now I could change these chords as well. And what's super cool is, wherever our little tracks are looping between, they're going to adhere to whatever the chord track is doing. It's going to move in harmonic ways. They're not horrible sounds. They're from the Integra 7. But yeah, okay. But I mean, so we can start to see that this is like quite an intriguing device. Honestly, there's so many things that it can do. There are like so many parts, and I mean it, so many parts to the randomness. So what I'll do now is on the third track, I'm going to assign that to like a marimba. Okay, so on channel 14. So I'll set this to channel 14 as a marimba. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the track type, track 3. I'm going to set it to be in stochastic. I wasn't going to do that initially, but I think it'd be quite interesting to do. Okay, and the stochastic, and I'm going to set that stochastic channel to follow. I'm going to set it to follow like the chord track. Oh, I keep sliding things around. Hang on. Oof. Just nudged the camera. Sorry about that. Let's pop that there. I've got an absolute mass of Eurorack cables on the floor because I've pulled them all out of my main bagpipes. Yes. Last time the Integra was featured on this show, we tried to make a mass of bagpipes. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to mute our multi-track now. So we'll just go back to our piano chord sequence. I'm going to just find a better chord sequence. So with a chord sequence, you can spend a long time just creating gorgeous chords. Okay, that's quite nice. So now let's go to track 3. Now this is stochastic. So what this means is the notes which are in a pale pink are our kind of in tune notes, and these will move with the harmony, but because it's stochastic, this would be our root note. This would be like our second, our third, our fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and I could say how much, you know, by the amount here, what's the likelihood of this note playing. Let's put this so if I put that up, we'll just get, and that'll just play the roots of each of the chords, and you can hear that's illustrating that quite nicely. So now if I just put some of these in, if you leave some gap here, it'll put gaps in. If I filled it, any available note would be played by this one here. So let's just do something like this. So I want some more of these higher ones here, so let's go. So I'm going to take these ones out. Now, these columns over here, these tell us how we want these stochastic notes to go. So if I was to go, this is what's the likelihood of the octaves being, if it play in higher octaves, and how many, you know, how much octave range we want it to go. If we went this way, we could have it going down low. Sorry. And then these ones here are whether they're long or short notes. Well, let's take out them low notes. Long notes won't make much of a difference with something like a marimba, but if it was a piano or, you know, organ or strings or whatever. I love that. Some of you will know what that is. And then these final two columns here are this will determine pitch and rhythm. You know, if I come down here, this will say there's a 42% chance that the pitch will change, but 100% chance that the rhythm will stay the same. Or this one is like rhythm. So it's like another way. It's another way of like kind of randomizing and applying sort of randomization. So now if I hit this random button here, the random perform button, then we can do things like we can say what. So I'm going to crank up the velocity. So this will kind of put like random velocities in. And I think if we went back to our piano, I think we could do with doing some of that as well on our, make some of the chords. And that goes into minus numbers as well, so you can have oof, big or quiet. Let's go more on this now. Now, and then our trig. So we could drop the trig percentage chances of them playing. And then re-triggers. So actually, if I put the triggers back up, we could get some nice rolls, which is quite marimba-esque. Ron, hello. Now Tez, who was one of my partners in crime on Friday. You could, and we can touch on some drums next. Now, actually, that's a great idea. Good call. Okay. Yeah, audio is much louder. So if I wanted to make my audio quieter, I'd drop my global velocities down on my marimbas there. Let's take off our other tracks as well. So a bit of a mess here. Things that get launched, when you unmute things, you can choose what the launch quantization is. Let's drop down the tempo then. Now, I did mention earlier that with the Integra, if we turn off the motional surround, let's do that. It sounds a lot more MIDI. Motional surround is off, but the reverbs come into play and effects come into play if you turn that off. That's with the motional surround off. For me, it sounds less impressive in some ways, but sounds more realistic when you engage that. So Ryan knows all about this because we talk a lot about this, and Ryan got one of these at the same time as me, and we've been like spending many an hour talking about it and discussing it, and Ryan's got very different ideas of where he's going with it, and I think I'm kind of interested in I love harmony, and I think the potential for the harmony on this is quite incredible, with all these different ways of doing stuff. But I do have to say, though, it is a bit boggling because it does so much. And sometimes there is that thing of like, oh, it does so much. I need to do all of this in order to master it. I need to be doing, all this. Because there's a whole bunch of things I haven't talked about yet. How are we doing for time? I don't want to go on too late today. Oh gosh, I was thinking about doing an hour. I've already gone over that. Wagyu is saying, searching for the perfect hardware sequencer is a lifelong obsession. This is the one. Not your thing. Octatrack syndrome. Yeah. Look, Fat Dust, I'm making this stuff, which is just one of a million billion ways of using it. So please don't let that put you off. But let's load up some drums then. Like that could be quite interesting to see. Okay, so if I was to load in a drum kit on here, I'm just going to do it on my iPad, and I'll load in onto channel 10. Let's go into channel 10, and we're going to pick a drum kit, and I'll just use, what sort of kit shall I load in? I'll just load solid kit in for now. Okay. Now, so go to channel, let's mute our other channels. And now, let me get you back. Oh, sorry. Oh, I got you wrong. Let me just correct things. He wants an Oxy for a long time. You were talking about other gear. As if the conversation goes on without me, huh? Oh no, I love it. Feel free to chat away, it's fine. I mean, it's hard for me to follow the chat at times because it happens so quick. Thanks so much though for everyone. It's great to see such a lot of you here joining me. Is really cool. Mr. Cheney, yeah man, good to see you. I think I think this has got so many features in it. you could probably go, well, I'm really not interested in that kind of hokum orchestral stuff, but I want to use it as a drum sequencer, or as I'm going to be using it hopefully tomorrow, illness aside, in a rehearsal with my new band Quasi Modal. Now, Quasi Modal is something we haven't gigged yet. We've been having sessions for most of the year, and it's really, really, yeah, it's a really exciting project. It's basically a modular synth and acoustic drum kit duo, and with my good friend Greg White, who is an absolutely superb drummer. I'm going to just mention a little bit about Quasi Modal, actually, because Quasi Modal is, I wonder, I might be able to, a little sneak preview. Oh, I'm just looking at my phone, and Greg White has just messaged me. Oh, okay, he's just cancelled tomorrow, which I think is a good thing, because I am feeling a bit poorly, so yeah. But anyway, I will talk about Quasi Modal a little bit, because we are gearing up to gigging, and in fact, that I would say is the Quasi Modal project is the main motivator for me getting the Oxy One. I took it for a modular session with Steve Davis last week, and he was eyeing it up quite suspiciously. I mean, he did see that it is really cool, but he was a bit concerned that that it takes you into like a different realm. I've taken out a bunch of the things out of my live rig that to replace it with the Oxy One, and I had a certain fluidity that I've been building up over the last couple of years with my modular rig that I am not that fluid yet with the Oxy One. So I think I can do what I want to be able to do with it, but as with any instrument, it takes time and time and patience. Let's have a look though. I think I'll give you a little sneak preview though of it, because it is really cool. We've got, what's special in my opinion with this Quasi Modal project is that we don't use a click track, and I will be talking more about this, so you will hear me go on and on about this. But everything I've ever done in the past regarding acoustic kit player, and either sequences, loops, or anything that's electronic, the drummer has either insisted or needed to have a click track. And what me and Greg have been doing with Quasi Modal is we've been exploring a non-click based approach, and it's been quite a revelation. There's a bunch of reasons why. Firstly, Greg is an astoundingly good drummer, so you need to have that. But secondly, when you have a click track, it kind of defines time to the drummer. It sort of defines usually, when the high beep, bop, 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 we're in 4/4. The high beep is the downbeat, and then, it creates the form. When you don't have a click track, you're not kind of beholden to that. And Greg can choose whether he can be on the off. He can also play, and this is where one of the big revelations are, he can play in any tempo and in any time signature. And because he's such a good drummer and do it confidently, the stuff that I'm doing, it depends what I'm doing, to be fair. There are stuff that wouldn't work, but a lot of the stuff we do, he drives it, and then the other stuff, I'm kind of reacting to him, but we're not synchronized. So things are kind of drifting and coming in and out, and then he'll sometimes get on it, he'll kind of move away from it, and it's amazing. I've been having the best time, really, exploring this. I think I should play some of this. I've just got to make sure, I've got to remember how to fix my phone up to this. Yeah, let's have a look. So I'll find you some stuff. So yeah, so just to kind of clarify then, the reason why I have gone down this Oxy One route is when I've been playing with Greg, I want to have more. Greg's asked me some things, very kind of, fair play things like going, it'd be great to have an A and a B section, which you can do with modular, but takes a bit of planning. We always do improvisations, and it's so that kind of negates planning when you're improvising. But and then he might ask, oh, can we do that again? And or would we be able to do that in a gig? And like, oh, modular is just not that kind of recallable. So it's a kind of nod to be able to do some sort of recallability. You've got 15 projects in the Oxy One, and with 16 patterns per sequence of your 4 sequences. So if you were using a multi with all 8, you'd have 16 patterns. Now those patterns can be up to 128 steps long, so you got quite a lot of facility there. And here's something that is super cool. When you change project, so that's like the top level thing, it will do it in time. It'll wait, and then it will bring it in the change of project based on your project quantization settings. So, if you do run out of all of those patterns, you can just change project and stay synchronized. This is pretty cool stuff, isn't it? I mean, for me, this thing is about as 2024 as there is, or certainly the 2020s, what we call in this decade anyway. Does it export MIDI? What does it export MIDI? It's a good question. I think, I can't remember. I think you can back it up. I think so. Good question. I'll look into that. Ryan doesn't think so, but we'll look. I'll have to look into that. Right. Let me play some of this Quasi Modal for you. And now this is a world first. No one's heard this other than my wife and Greg's partner and a few friends. Ryan's heard some of this as well. And we have got, look at all these tracks we've done now. Look at them all. We have done loads and loads and loads. So yeah, we've got over 100 pieces now that we've done. So I'm almost a bit nervous to pick one, really, because there's so many. I'll play something from a fairly recent one then. Let's see if this works. Let me just make my phone transmit. Bluetooth, please. Sorry, I should have set this up. No, but yeah, I kind of wanted to show this, or rather explain this, because, yeah, it's to do with... I need to pair it. It used to pair automatically. It's forgotten the Bluetooth settings. One moment. Talk amongst yourselves. Bluetooth. Yeah, there it is. Join. Ryan is saying that Arc Search says it doesn't currently do MIDI export, but has been requested. Ryan's referring to Arc Search there, which is my browser of choice these days. Is an astonishing thing. It's like a kind of AI search, and once you start working with the search engine that way, it's really great. Synth Addict, gotta go. Okay, thanks, mate, for joining me. Amazing. A good point from Jack. If you're outputting MIDI, you could record all the MIDI. And in fact, I've been using it with my little RetroKits RK008, and that will record everything coming out of it. So I've got the MIDI feeding into that. So yeah, there are ways to do stuff. Okay, I think I am connected now. Let's try that again. Let's see if that plays. I might just do a few little excerpts. I haven't actually checked in with Greg to see if this is actually okay. Is that playing? This should be playing. Do you know, this is annoying. Generally, Bluetooth has improved immeasurably from the olden days, but it still can be a bit flaky when you need it to perform for you. Here we go. Yeah, the Arcade 008 is fabulous. I use it as my MIDI tape recorder. Here it comes. I've just grabbed this one at random, really. So with Greg not having a click track, you know, as he's listening to what I'm doing, he's just feeling his way through it. And then, you know, here he's... I'll just skip forward a little moment. Oof. You have a looser, more fluid approach when you don't use a click track. It's less... well, it's less kind of rigid, but also I use a human slop on my clock as well, so my clock is not rigid. So I've got 10% maybe. So this is one thing. I'll find another one. We've done so many. So this is one now. Here's one then. This is the first session where we're using the Oxy One and using some chords now. Let's just skip forward a moment. Yeah. We like that. Actually, no. Using Pamela's Pro workout with the humanize function. That's new to the Pro Pamela's. Okay, so that's. I mean, this is a little bit of a preview to Quasi Modal. But yeah, we've done like loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of stuff. So love a lot of it as well. They're like long form jams, you know, often 15 minutes long, and then you know, and then we'll kind of pick little elements from it, and we're looking to release some stuff on our Rack Records imprint as well. So even though Greg is acoustic, it's still this electronic conversation. It's improvised stuff. It feels kind of spiritually fine for that. Oh, here's a good one. I like this one. This is a totally different thing. This is called Gloomhaven. Okay, and then, so what's quite interesting with this one, now I'll probably have to skip through this. This is probably not the most interesting one to play. It's about 20 minutes long, but what's quite fun about this one is it's like a sort of drone based thing. So for a drummer to play along to a drone is quite an interesting thing. And what Greg does over the course of this is he'll start just adding small, hang on, let me skip forward a little bit. Mate. So there's like no discernible groove or anything coming from me, so Greg's just exploring the kind of sonic space that I'm creating, really. But as this track progresses, he starts to become the dominant force. Sounds like a great idea, Wagyu. I might need reminding, but I like the sound of that. Oh yeah, that's a great comment, thank you, love it. That's so again, you know, Greg's sort of playing something that's got some timing in it, but it's kind of fluid. And then as it goes on, he becomes yeah. So I'll just bring this out. I mean, yeah, we got a ton of tunes, but yeah. So I just wanted to play some of that for context to what's really put me on this Oxy One sort of path. But as I mentioned earlier, the Oxy One is so feature rich. It truly is. And I will definitely be returning to it when I get a little bit more au fait with it. I hope you've enjoyed it tonight. I'm going to sign off now because I didn't want to go on too late. And as I say, it could go on forever with this thing. I really appreciate you all joining me. It's a real pleasure. And again, you know, thank you for all your positive comments. And yeah, okay. Sorry, I did say about questions. If anybody's got any questions, now would be the time to ask. So questions about the Oxy One, I guess, or anything you want, really. But thanks, Steve. I mean, we have kind of got an album ready to go. It's that are taken from our first 3 sessions that we did, but we've moved on so much since then that it feels a bit weird going back to those parts, really. Okay, question from Wagyu. Let's just put that question up. How does the Oxy One sound playing bagpipes? Yeah, okay, let's do it. I was going to do drums, wasn't I? I was going to do drums. That's why I went off on this. I tell you what, I'll come back with this configured for drums in a future show, and we'll do like a kind of drummy. Oh yeah, because this has got one of my favorite modules built in. It's got mutable instruments grids built in, so you can set the first 3 within a multi to be grids, and you've got all of the familiar controls for grids, you know, into this. So it's really cool for for that kind of Sloon, like bananas, you can't say no to bagpipes. I do have a motto. Some of you who might know me might know this, which is never say no to a banana. If anyone ever offers you a banana, even if you don't like them, you should always say yes, because they are things of immenseness. Beautiful fruit that actually comprises of 7 different sugars that start from simple sucrose, is it fructose, dextrose, multidextrose? Well, I can't remember them all, but each one is more complex molecularly. So your body breaks them down at different rates. So the banana provides just the ultimate smooth energy release. And it's got potassium in there as well, which goes straight to the brain and gives you thinking power. So yes, and it's perfectly packaged for the pocket. So never say no to a banana. Oh, where's that? Just say no to drugs. Yeah, that reminds me of a yes, luxury fruit. But just say no to drugs. There was some graffiti in South Wales back in the 1990s. It was actually written in surprisingly good lettering, which was just say yes to drugs, which was a very it was there for a few years before they painted over it, undoing all the hard work that Grange Hill did in the 1980s. I think if you're not from Britain, all of this may just be gobbledygook. Okay, now the bagpipes are going to have to wait because I've been on for far too long now. But anyway, thanks everybody so much. Only users lose. That's funny. Probably get this show taken down now. Oh, question. Do I like the PWM Mantis? Yes, I do. I need to spend quality time with it. I went over to Paul PWM's. He hired an apartment for the duration of Bristonica, and before it all began, I went up and met up with him, and I had a little go there, but I need to spend time on my own with things, really, and I haven't done that yet with the Mantis, but yeah, it sounds fantastic. It's got such a lot of personality, and I think it's brilliant. I think it's really cool. I highly regard it. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me, everybody. This is now officially my signing off. I will be back with Oxy One, as I say. I'm going to try and do some drum stuff and be a little bit more prepared with that. Jim Glue saying Mantis is quite something. Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Nick was making the PWM based yodel like a champ. Wow. All right. Oh, I'm glad I did it. I was feeling so poorly earlier. I thought there's no way I'm going to do this, but But yes, all this positivity, all this lovely community that we get together. Feel super proud to be part of. Okay, thanks everybody. See you soon. Bye.